This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to downrigger@montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
And hello, everybody. It's Downrigger Dale with the Montana Outdoor Podcast here again. You know, we've been talking a little bit about, in our past podcasts, about choosing the right boat. This is the time of year to do that. This is usually the time of year, well, of course, here in Montana, but a lot of you listen from all around the world. And a lot of you are out looking around. You get a case of that boat envy. You see boats go by and you go, boy, it's about time to replace that boat. Well, we've got another expert on with us, and that is Richie from Bretz RV and Marine. And Bretz is a very special company to the Montana Outdoor Podcast and the other show, of course, that the captain and I do, the Montana Outdoor Radio Show. They've been with us for a long time, and they've been so helpful in showing us, you know, how to pick the right boat, the right RV, and that. And Rich is, if you've ever gone to the Bretz YouTube channel, you've seen Rich many times talking about the different items they have and giving you some great advice on how to choose the right one. Captain is with me here. Captain, you've talked with Richie several times, and let's see if we can find a boat for these folks that are listening to our podcast, shall we?
Well, Richie Winters is a general sales manager for Bretz. Of course, you got him in Missoula and Billings in Montana. And one of the things I like about the Bretz guys and gals, for that matter, is they actually go out fishing. They go out fishing. They use their product. They know exactly what they like. And, of course, when you come in there to look at a boat, what kind of a boat do you need? Richie, good morning, or not good morning. Richie, how you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
Doing fantastic. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Let's talk a little bit about, let's focus first of all on the Smoker Craft, which is a very popular line that you guys carry. And you have Smoker Craft props with a V. You also have Smoker Crafts that are jets. Let's start with the Vs and the props. Give us a kind of a rundown of the kind of boats that you have in that lineup, and we'll talk a little bit about how we can fit maybe one of those boats into some sort of a angler's fishing lifestyle.
You bet. So we, we've teamed up with Smoker Craft, and we've had them for a while. We've actually, being a large dealer that we are, a lot of people are unaware that, we get some choice of what we carry here. And the fact that we've been in business for a long time, and of course, most of our salespeople that sell these boats enjoy them, own them, and use them for a long time. We gain this tribal knowledge not only from our salespeople that are out using them daily, and how to equip the boat, how much horsepower do I need, how much do I not need. I'll give you an example. Just because somebody's budget, they could afford whatever they wanted to, doesn't necessarily mean that they need a boat that is the most expensive or the largest or the most horsepower. It really depends on how they're using it. So, one of the key things that we try and do here is kind of have a consultation style selling. So we really like to get to know the customer, let them, tell us how they plan on fishing or how they've been fishing in the past, what bodies of water they fish. Those type of cues and that type of information really gives us the information to help the customer go boating. So, we like to step in and start the process by really interviewing the customer and really tailor making, the boat purchase that they're going to be purchasing, around the activities and the bodies of water that they're using.
Rich, I think that's really important what you just brought up, because, when I'm out on the water, and of course the captain and I spend a lot of time on the water, and so there's a big difference to, people that are either like a guide that's fishing for a living, people like Captain and I that have a bad, serious fishing addiction, to then some people that I hear say, I love to fish, but the season in Montana is about 3 months, maybe 4 months long, and I don't fish every weekend. I just can't justify a $100,000 fishing boat. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because what you're going to use really is important, because you don't want to end up being a slave to your watercraft, with your payment and everything.
You're absolutely right. And as you guys know, as fishermen, being part of this industry and obviously having access to the inventory that I've had the privilege to, I've owned about every size and price range that you can. And, maybe you guys will agree with this, but, I started out with a little 14-foot smoker craft Voyager with a, 40 horse engine on the back. And man, I was able to go anywhere and everywhere with that thing. I did steelhead and salmon with that. Yes, with a prop. I had to be real careful and know, the knowledge of the water and the depths. And I wasn't able to move up and down the river like I could in a jet boat, but I could definitely trailer that thing easily enough that I could go from boat launch to boat launch and fish some really good target areas. And then I've had large enclosed jet boats, and I've had, now I'm running a 200 Pro V. Hughes craft that
nice.
I love over at Fort Peck. So it's funny, once you've had kind of that experience of owning everything, you kind of figure out what's extra jewelry that I don't need anymore. And all of us have budgets. We have house payments and cell phones and kids and soccer tournaments and whatever else life throws at us. So, the important thing is that you get out, you can enjoy it. And really, a boat is just a tool to really provide a higher level of experience for you while you go, fishing or hunting or just sightseeing in them.
Let's talk a little bit about the price point that you had made reference to. Give us an idea. I walk into Bretz. I want a V, and I'm sold on smoker craft. They make a great boat. Give me an idea, if I'm going to get a 17, 18-foot boat, what kind of money we're talking about with the motor. I want to have some electronics on there, maybe an electric trolling motor in the bow. I want the electronics to be in the bow as well, but I also want one on the dash. I realize that maybe it is a $64,000 question. I don't know. But do you have an idea, Richie?
No, yeah, it's a great boat. So, what we used to do and what a lot of dealerships will do, there's some marketing involved, and there's, for full transparency, the best way to get phone calls and internet leads is to price a boat out with no options on it. It looks like a great price, and then the customer buys it, and then they figure out, well, geez, I need a trailer. I need an electric trolling motor. I need a trailer.
You want it to float. Oh,
yeah. Hopefully you've got 4 or 5 guys that can help you, walk it to the lake and launch it. So we've learned through that tribal knowledge. So we've done a really good job. So I'll give you an example. A 2023 smoker craft, Pro Angler 17, 172. We call these kind of the SUV of fishing boats. In the fact that, we've equipped those are going to come with a trailer. They're going to come with various horsepowers. Obviously, you can go from a 75, a 90, a 115 up to a 150. With a typical, I'll tell you, we've got a 172 Pro Angler, put a 90 horse Mercury on the back of that. They retail at $50,882. We've got them on sale at $41,995.
Oh wow!
And they're fully equipped. So you're going to have a fishing seat up front that you can move. It's a walk-through windshield. It comes with the trailer. It's going to come with a Minn Kota trolling motor already on board with that. Most of these will come with a travel cover. So we've kind of done a good job of listening to our customers and then taking the tribal knowledge of us fellow fishermen and say, hey, let's equip these things at the factory, save some folks some money, give them the tools that they need, and give them the equipment that is, required so that they can really go out and enjoy the boat and not worry about running into another guy on the lake that says, hey, I love your boat. I have the same one, but have you seen this fish finder? Have you tried an electric motor? And then they get disappointed because the boat wasn't equipped properly. And then they end up spending more time driving back to a dealer or having somebody install it. So we really try and do, a great, I would say above a beginner's boat, more of an intermediate boat, where you can take the boat after we give you your show through out to the lake and confidently know that, you've got the equipment and the tools to really start out ahead of the game.
Now, Richie, after COVID, a lot of us ended up, eating into some of our savings to kind of get us through that period. Now we're all back working and all that. We've got good cash flow, but don't have a lot to put down. What about financing for something like you just explained there? Is that something you guys can help people with as well?
We use 10 different lenders to get folks the best rates and terms possible. We use from local national banks. It really gives us the ability to, customize the financing for the customer. And then the price points at the boats that we sell, the banks really enjoy our business, obviously. And what financing also allows us to do is keep some money in the bank in case, you need that access to that cash. And you're able to basically rent the boat from yourself through the bank to go out and enjoy the season. So, to give an example, at $42,000 for, a fantastic boat, you're going to be anywhere from $350, $330 a month, depending on what you put down, your credit score, and what your profile is. You can get into a boat very reasonable. One of the things that I tell customers a lot is I've got 3 kids, and my wife and myself on my cell program through, the local cell dealer here. And my monthly payment's up to $200. And I'm constantly telling those guys, if I can get those kids off of that cell phone, then I could probably buy a nicer boat.
Yeah, exactly. I know, There's some options that I'll tell you off the podcast, Richie, that I have explored. Now, I don't have kids that I have cell phones on anymore, but it's interesting you say that. Everything has went up, from your streaming service to your cell phones. How long can you finance a boat? How many years can you finance a boat like that Smoker Craft?
That's a great question. So the average term is usually 144 or 180. They also have a price point. So if you borrow over a certain amount, and I'll throw, over 50 or 75,000, you're able to extend those loans even longer. But I would say the average term for most folks is 144 or 180.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about months now. That
is correct. Yeah.
Now let's talk about another way that a lot of people will purchase a boat, like what we're just talking about, and that is, and I'll be an example here. Quite a few years back, my kids were still young. I had 8, still do have 8 daughters, but they're all grown in that. So I had a large boat because we did a lot of stuff. And, so I'm tooling around in this 36-foot Wellcraft. Well, now it's me. I don't need anything like that size. What about doing trade-in? We hear all these different things that some people say, no, don't trade in. You're not going to get a good deal. Try to sell yourself and then go take the cash to the dealership. What do you recommend there as far as, downsizing and trading in your boat for something else?
Absolutely. Great question. So one of the things that's unique about boats, and, specifically you look at aluminum boats, or you look at the fiberglass boats that are in Montana. If you look at the values of what boats have sustained, they're pretty impressive. In fact, it's not uncommon to hear a customer say, I bought that, that 200 Pro V Hughes craft back in 2016 for 35, and they're selling them for a new one is 75 now. And boy, I put it on the market and I was able to get, 44,000 for it.
Yep.
You can't say that about a lot of products. I mean, even a Toyota Tundra is going to hold its value well, but the reality is, the boat market's pretty solid and has been, traditionally. So you can look and do the data on that and see that as far as a safe bet for a depreciating asset, it's about as good as it gets. So, what I tell people is when you're looking at trading your boat in, there's some services that trading in that are really beneficial for you. So do you want to spend the time advertising it and the money advertising it on the platforms that are available? Do you want to give up your Saturday and Sunday for the guy driving in from wherever that may or may not be qualified? The other big advantage to trade-ins is when you pull it into the parking lot and you drop it off, you don't have to guarantee the motor to the guy that's picking it up, and you're not going to be hassled by that person for the next 2 or 3 weeks. We have the availability because of our partnerships with financing that, you don't have to worry about asking a guy for a pre-qualification. Is his money real? So, it really boils down to convenience. And I would just say, when you bring a boat in like that, depending on the year, the price, the condition, that's all going to affect the price. And we do a really good job of making sure that we get we call it maximum allowable trade-in for that customer. Because the reality is, we want to help that customer go boating with their new boat. And if part of that process is helping them, relieve the burden of their previous boat and helping them move forward, we do everything that we can. So I think it's
and not to mention that when you put your boat for sale, and boy, I've heard these horror stories before, you put it on, Craigslist and all that, and people are coming by looking at it, and then you go out one morning and the boat's gone. Because people on the internet use a lot of those places as a way to find out what they want to steal. So those are all big considerations that you really want to think about. And so I really like what you're saying is, you can go into a place like Bretz, where your motivation is not to try to steal the boat for a great deal. Your motivation is to get a customer, and that's what I've always admired about Bretz, is you want to build a long-term relationship with your customers. And so your motivation is to do a great deal for the customer so they keep coming back, and you kind of become a part of the Bretz family. So
I'd like to add one thing on the selling your own boat deal. It's interesting because I did that. And it's down the road
for a long time.
What happens is that the guy that bought your boat, when something goes wrong with it, it's your boat.
Yeah.
And that it's his boat the rest of the time. And so I like the idea about giving it to Bretz, and you're right, Richie. You got to weigh both ends, and if some guys just say, nope, I'm not trading it in. I'm going to sell it myself, and
that's fine.
I've also sold a boat directly to a guy I've never heard from him again, which is great, and that's been like 3 years down the road. So there are things and ways to do that. So you got Smoker Craft, the prop. Let's talk about the Smoker Craft jet boat. That's a great lineup of jet boats.
Great for Montana rivers too. Yeah.
And I own one of those.
So that series is called the Sportsman. And we actually worked with Smoker Craft. A lot of folks don't know that. But we had them redesign that hull for us. So one of the issues with, that boat, so specifically it's like a modified V. So, for purposes of not being able to show you visually, it looks like like a traditional, almost like a duck boat, but it's got 18 feet. You can get them in 16-foot center console, full walk around, and then the outboard motor that hangs off the back. What we've found is, there's different makes out there that by the time you put that motor on the back, which could be 400 pounds, and one thing to consider once you put a jet on the bottom of an outboard motor, to give you an example, a 115 horsepower, let's say a Yamaha motor, by the time you put that jet boot on it, it actually drops that horsepower to 80. because
Okay.
you lose horsepower when you
Right.
go for a jet versus a prop. So you don't lose the weight. So you've got 400 pounds back there. Then they put the fuel canister back there, which is going to be built in, and that could be 25 gallons. At 8 pounds a gallon, that's a lot of weight.
And then you put Downrigger Dale back there.
I was just going to say it. You said it, Cap.
That will make the back go down a little.
Yeah, and one of the tough things about that, especially if you're running, rivers where you've got skinny areas and you've got to get on step, which means you've got to get that boat up on step, because the jet boat only works when you're on step. To really get the benefits of, the clearance between the water and the ground or the rocks that you're going over. And being on step is getting the boat up on plane and then having it run smooth, and sometimes we get these small areas where you've got to run through a skinny section that's real thin and you can't power down. And then you get into a big pool, say on the Clark Fork or the Missouri or the Yellowstone, and you've got to be able to shut that down. And, running a jet boat's a whole lot. It's an entirely different game. So it's really important that you have weight and balance management.
Okay.
So one of the things that we did with Smoker Craft is we took that fuel cell that was in the back and we moved it to the front of the boat. And I tell you what, that made a huge difference. It opened up a lot of area in the back to fish and maneuver in the back. And then it created, more of a cantilever in the front that kept that bow down. Because when you hammer the throttle on a jet boat to get it up on quickly, so that you can get on plane in that pool and then run those skinny sections in the river, it's all about when you put the throttle down, that bow rises really fast. Mm-hmm. And depending on how long it takes for that thing to come down, you got to remember your back is dragging, and that boot that's on the bottom of that jet is going to hit something. So we just noticed a huge difference in that. We also took the live well that was sitting in front of the seat that's mounted to the front of the console, which is about the center of that boat, and we moved that to the front. So, by balancing the boat out correctly, it has been a fantastic boat for us. A lot of river guides are using them. A lot of outfitters are using them around here strictly because of that performance. And, that type of boat, you can use them for about anything.
Richie, we're going to take just a quick break here. We want to thank one of our sponsors of our podcast. Has been so helpful. But when we come back, just something for you to think about a little is maybe walk us through the reason why you want to go to a jet rather than just leaving it a prop, because like you were saying, there's some weight and some horsepower things. So let's talk about that when we come back. But first, Captain, I wanted to bring up we talk about finding experts for our podcast listeners, and one in particular that we found is Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Unfortunately, we're talking about picking out boats right now, which is the time to do it, but winter's not over, is it? And when you want to get a snowplow that's going to get your cabin plowed out and keep it plowed out, you can tie up a lot of money in something that's not really working right. This is where you found Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer to help us with that.
Yeah, they sell the Boss snowplow, and anybody knows snowplows, Boss is the boss.
Yes.
They are the man. And you are the man when you own a Boss.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they have the straight Bosses. They've got the ones that will do every hydraulic
Yeah,
motion.
do it at every angle you want, which for tight driveways and different shapes, that's a great idea.
But more importantly, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer Equipment, Josh and the folks there are a family-owned business. They're located in Missoula. You can get them all the information on rmtte.com. I would certainly recommend you check them out. That's Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer Equipment in Missoula. All right, let's get back to talking to Richie.
Yeah, and thanks to them. So, Richie, when we're looking at that boat that we want to use for the smaller lakes or out on the rivers and that, we were talking about jet boat and putting that jet on your outboard. That is an additional expense, additional weight, a little reduction in horsepower. Tell us when it's a really good idea to make sure that you go with the jet option, and maybe when you really don't need it.
Yeah, that is a great question, Dale. That's probably one of the best questions somebody has asked me, and you can tell good questions from people that are professionals and actually use the products that we're talking about. So, thanks for that question. I have a pretty basic breakdown for it, and I do a 7 out of 10. And what that means is if you're going to be running skinny water, or I would say shallow water, or rivers, if you take your boat out 10 times and 7 out of those 10 times you're on a river, you want to buy a jet.
Okay.
If you're going to buy a boat and you're going to use it 10 times and 7 out of those 10 times you're going to be on a lake or a reservoir, you want to buy a prop. And the reason for that is that you will get by with the inconsistencies and the inconveniences of a jet motor 3 out of the 10 times, but 7 out of the 10 times it will become a problem, and you will become what we call a trade-in. So what I'm talking about, when you buy a jet boat, you have to be clear-eyed and you have to understand the differences. So I'll give you kind of a yin-yang between a prop and a jet. Jet boats allow us to run on surfaces of water that we need to stay off of the bottom, and depth is an issue. The downfall to those is that, if you're running in 12 inches, when the boat is planing out in 12 inches of water and you've got 3 foot of chop on Fort Peck, you're going to be slamming up and down quite a bit. So it's not as comfortable. Your fuel economy goes down quite a bit because you're burning more energy through that prop to create the propulsion system that you need that's going to be required to get that boat across the lake or the river. So your fuel economy will go down. And then trailering a boat with a jet boat is entirely different than a prop. A jet boat will only work, the jet mechanism will only work if you apply throttle to it. So I'll give you a great example. If I have a prop boat and I have a jet boat and we're sitting next to each other, the only way I'm going to be able to steer that boat onto the trailer with the jet boat is to actually give it throttle. If I'm going to be making a hard turn left or right, I have to apply throttle as I'm going left or right with the jet, because that's the only steering that I get. When you have a prop, that thing hangs down below the hull of the boat, and just the mechanism of it biting the water, it's almost like a skag on a sailboat. Mm-hmm. It gives you a lot better control through the water. So I'll give you an example. It's almost impossible to troll with just a jet boat motor in wind on a lake because it's sliding around so much. It doesn't have that skag that a outboard will give you that bites into the water and kind of stops the boat from slipping out.
Right.
So those are some of the big differences.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed traveling around the state of Montana, Richie, is that eastern Montana, like, for example, at Fort Peck, and you're familiar with Fort Peck, you fished it quite a bit.
Yeah.
They have a lot of guys own a prop and a jet. If you can't afford a prop and a jet, you got to make that decision, which, just as you explained, which way you're going to go. Then you got to get a friend that has the other boat. So you can do both, okay? Because there's good fishing on both. But let's say I had a prop, just a situation. Let's say I had a prop that I used to go on the lake. What's the least expensive jet boat that you can get me into? Maybe a stern drive, or a tiller rather, maybe a tiller that you have available at Bretz.
Yeah, so that would be that 1866 smoker craft. The thing that you've got to understand with jet boats is you've got to be powered correctly. If you don't, you can get in some really dangerous situations, especially on rivers. On a lake, if the engine quits, you just float. On a river running 20,000 CFS and high water and the engine quits, boy, you're in trouble. I mean, you've got a lot of power running against that boat hull, and you get stuck up against a tree or a log jam. It can be really dangerous. So that's first and foremost. So you're going to be paying for a longer hull, and you're going to be wanting the power to get you out of those, scary situations. You're going to be in that 40 to 50 range on a smoker craft, and that's going to come with like a 115 that's been necked down to an 80 horse. So what I mean by that is the engine's actually a 115, but because of the reduction in the horsepower through the jet, they actually re-tag it and put an 80 horsepower on it. That's what I would start with that size of boat. You can go to a 60 horsepower jet and do like a 16-foot boat. The thing you don't want to do is have a 18-foot boat with a 30-horse jet on it, because you will be absolutely miserable. You'll never get it to plane, and you're not going to get out of those situations that you need to.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
Good advice there. Now let's shift gears a little bit, and let's talk about when the entire family gets involved. And this is something we see quite often is, dad loves to fish, but then the kids and mom say, now wait a minute. We want to do other things too. I mean, we can't afford to buy, 3 different boats and all that. Tell us about choosing a boat that's going to satisfy dad, that he's going to have a good fishing boat that's going to do the work for him as a fisherman, but can also satisfy the family needs. What do you recommend there? How do we pick that boat?
Yeah, I'd recommend, we have a 18-foot smoker craft. It's called a 188 DC. So it's got a walk-through windshield. And, one of the big benefits of having a windshield is that it's going to protect you in the wind and the weather. You're going to be able to stay out longer if it rains. These are going to have a canopy on them. And our canopies come with side isinglass. Oh, nice. You can get the rear isinglass on them. And, you guys, I don't know if you can see me, but I'm bald. And
yeah, me too.
One of the things that, and you probably will share this experience, if I head over to Fort Peck for 4 days, that's a long drive, and I head over there, and if I don't put sunscreen on my head, and I'm having a great time and I forget about it, and I burn the top of my head the first day, I am miserable for 3 days.
I've been there.
A canopy for me in the summer is just a must. It also gives a spot for your kids to kind of get out of the heat, and basically give you some more comfort. So that boat has walk-through windshield. So as you're moving back and forth from the boat launch to your ski area if you're going to pull pontoon or pull a tube behind it, or you guys want to do a little skiing, as you're transporting and moving, especially when you get out of the water, you're wet. That wind can be a factor. So that windshield is fantastic. And then you put up your isinglass if it gets rainy. That boat has 150 horsepower Mercury. So you're going to be able to fish in the morning. And then when the sleepyheads that don't want to fish, you can run back to the dock with a full cooler of walleye or smallmouth or northern pike or whatever you choose to fish for. Empty those out of the live well or the cooler, grab the tube, grab the rope, grab the kids, grab the coolers, grab the snacks. Then you head right out to the middle of the lake, drop a skier. These are going to have a ski pylon that goes in them. So you're able to do both. That's kind of why we call it that SUV of boats, where you can use it for multiple disciplines. Yeah, that's a fantastic boat.
Great idea. We're going to pause for just a second. We want to give credit to another one of our sponsors that are helping bring this podcast. But think about this question: pontoon boats. That's a whole new, different type of a boat. Lifestyle. Yeah. And when would that come into play, with a family or with whoever?
Especially when I hear that question so often, pontoon boat, you can't really fish out of that.
That's not...
Richie's probably going to argue with you on that one.
Anyway, John and Corey and Shannon at Superior Hardwoods, they gave us a tour the other day. It's an unbelievable place in Missoula, Montana, where they get reclaimed wood, and they mill it right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're driving through Missoula, you're going south on 93, you see that big Peak Athletic Center, the big workout center with the indoor track. Just across the street from that's where you find Superior Hardwoods. And it looks like, that isn't open to the public. No, it is. They have a showroom and all that. But the things we saw there, Captain, were amazing, the types of wood that they have.
Yeah, they are a custom wood, custom floor manufacturer. They got many different types of wood. I mean, there's too many of them to explain. You just need to, here's what you want to do. Go to superior-hardwoods.com. That's their website. all the contact information is going to be there. And I have floors from them. I live in Lewistown. They deliver all over the state. Hopefully they can get you lined up with whoever's going to install it. Just talk to them. Family-owned business, great people, been in business a long time. John, Corey, and Shannon, superior-hardwoods.com. Let's get back to Rich here at Bretz. Richie, let's explore pontoon boats. Pontoon boats are very popular, have become very popular, and why is that?
Yeah, you're dead on. It's the number one selling boat in North America.
Really?
It's outselling all the other. Yeah. So, if you understand the kind of the progression of pontoon boats, rumor has it that they started up in Canada and somebody took a dock and they threw a little 20-horse motor on the back and they cruised around, and it was more of a, the traditional party barge. Mm-hmm. They didn't have real great hulls. The pontoons were a couple of 50-gallon drums that were strapped to a conglomerate of wood and whatnot, and some foam underneath it. And then they'd mount a weak transom on the back, and they were just really for cruising around and guys to jump off and get multiple people, on the boat at the same time. The downfall to it was they didn't handle water real well. You couldn't pull skiers. You couldn't do any of the sports that we like to do in the summertime. That is completely changed.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. If one of our sales guys bought a Barletta pontoon boat, it's a triple hull. It's 22 feet long. He had a 275 on it. And I have run water in boats for years and years. And one of the things you guys know you don't do on Flathead or Fort Peck when you got 3.5 foot of swell is you want to go towards that wave or away from it. You don't really want to ride in the middle because it can get wet and it can get dangerous. Well, I think we had 12 people on that boat. He opened the throttle on it and we started riding through the middle. And I immediately grabbed my kids and was about to scold him until I saw the performance of it. But that boat's got 3 tubes on it, which is essentially 3 keels. And the keel is the centerpiece that runs down the hole. That really is if you were to stick your hand out the window, like when we were kids, and put our hands out sideways and flat, the amount of resistance that you get. So imagine that's kind of how a hull works, and that's how a keel works. It really keeps you tracking. So you got 3 of those keels tracking, and it absorbed the water better than anything I've ever been on. That's including a V-hull. So the performance of those, now that they're putting larger horsepowers and reinforcing those transoms, you're able to do about anything on them. So you can cruise from your lake place to dinner at Flathead and, run everybody, multiple people on that boat, have the stereo going. Everybody's comfortable, dry. And, one of the concerns anytime you're on a lake is, the weather and the waves that kick up. And the more people that enjoy the lakes, the choppier they become just from the activity on the boats. And they dominate. So you can use them for so many different things. On the way back, you want to pull the kids behind a tube. You want to do some water skiing. You want to do some, we stop at the river up at Flathead and we do the rope swing and the cliff jumping. They are just a hoot. And you can literally spend the entire day on that boat. In fact, a lot of our customers that, don't want to put the money out to buy a lake house, they'll buy a pontoon boat and they will spend the entire day from morning to evening on those boats. Right. The game has completely changed with pontoon boats.
It has changed because I Chinook salmon fish a lot at Fort Peck. And I'm out there in my boat and I've got a bimini top and I've kind of done some things to keep you cool because it'll be 100 degrees out there. And
we're out there like 15 hours.
Yeah. And it's like for ball men are us, like you are, Richie, and Downrigger and myself, you got that. I mean, it covers you completely on a pontoon boat. There's guys out there fishing for salmon, and I really think to myself when I see them, boy, that would really feel comfortable because, the salmon aren't just biting all the time. And so you get somebody who wants to take a nap like me, I could say, why don't you just drive the boat, just go over in that area, and I'll lay down one of those like couches on the pontoon boat and just take a little snooze. And it really is. That's why they're so popular, because they become more versatile with the technology that they have put in there. They come from the dock with the little 10 horse or 12 horse tiller on it to just a really nice boat.
Well, and let's talk a bit about fishing out of a pontoon boat, because I think that's where pontoons have gotten a bad name and confused. That really, I'm seeing more and more people fishing out of a pontoon boat, for the reasons of comfort and that. But is it an effective fishing boat, in your opinion, Richie?
It is. I have actually been over on the Missouri River paddle fishing, and I've seen guys on pontoon boats, and I've thought, what in the heck? But they are, you're depending on the size and of course the engine, your performance will be degraded a little bit, depending on what tool you decide to pick up. But they actually make pontoon boats that are specific for fishing.
Yeah. Okay.
Which, you're going to get the live well on them. You're going to get the rod holders. They are a fantastic tool for fishing whitefish up at Flathead, where you can get multiple people jigging. Oh, yeah. They're great for walleye, trolling. Any boat will really troll. So if you can get some rods out there and a fish finder and do your 1.5 to 2 miles an hour and target whatever species you want to, you can add downriggers to them. You can add fish finders to them. That game has completely changed.
The other thing I've heard about pontoon boats is people say, well, yeah, okay, they're comfortable. Yeah, you can fish out of them now, but boy, they're impossible to get back on the trailer. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
No, and that has to deal with the trailer technology that we have. Before we used to have the rollers on the bunks, and you'd get the boat on there, and if you didn't have somebody up front to latch it quickly, it would slide back down. So everything we order is coming with, either a carpeted bunk or a rubber materialized that keeps that boat on there. So you really, you're going to back that boat in. You're going to get 3/4 of that front tire underwater, so that the trailer's half in and out, and you're just going to drive that thing straight up, launch it onto the front. It's going to stick. You're going to be able to hook to the front and reel it up. One thing you've got to worry about with a pontoon boat is your depth when you launch it at the boat launch. You got to make sure that, when it's low water and you've got to back up a long ways to get those tubes submerged, that can be an issue. So you want to be really careful where you, I wouldn't say careful. I think you got to be cognizant of where you launch that and the water levels, just like any boat.
Richie, we've talked, and you've been very informative about how to get into a boat, how to finance a boat. Let's talk a little bit about the brand names that Bretz carries in Missoula and Billings, the different brand names of boats that you carry. You guys are obviously have been known for years as the RV #1 seller in the Northwest. Let's talk a little bit about the brand names you carry, so when somebody comes and shops Bretz, they know that they can look at a particular brand name, maybe if they're looking for one.
Well, especially for our listeners of the podcast that are following along right now on the website and looking at BretzRV.com, go over the different brand names they should look for that maybe we've been discussing here today.
You bet. So for the fishing end of things, aluminum, Smoker Craft is definitely one of our top selling boats. There's just a lot of power in that punch. It's a great value. So I would definitely look at our Smoker Craft brand. We also, we carry Hughes Craft, which is going to be, that's going to be a progression once, above the Smoker Craft. It's, you're going to see a lot of folks that, it's going to be their third or fourth boat. That's a fully welded boat. A lot of our guides and outfitters use those. They use them up in Canada. They use them in Alaska. They're going to have hard tops on them. You're going to see 200 horsepower, kicker motors, spray down stations. And, a guy that's buying that boat won't blink an eye at $6,000 to $10,000 in accessories with electronics and trolling motors and whatnot. And Smoker Craft also makes pontoon boats, and that brand is called Sun Chaser. It's the same company. But one of the nice things about the reason we choose those boats is the warranties on Smoker Craft, Sun Chaser in particular, are the best in the industry. So I'll define that. So the whole warranty on it is a lifetime. Everything else from the hull up is 6 years. Most manufacturers are going to give you 1 year, and then you team it up with Honda's got a 5-year non-declining warranty, and what that means is you buy the boat, and for 5 years, on the last day of the 5th year before it expires, the engine blows, it's fully covered. They don't depreciate that warranty. They also allow you to transfer it, so they warranty the motor. They don't warranty the person. So if you sell that boat 100 times within that 5 years, it's covered. Mercury's going to do a similar program where they do a 3-year. Yamaha does a 3-year. Spectacular. One of the cool things about, I'll just say specifically Yamaha, is the warranty rate on a Yamaha is less than 2%. So what does that look like? 100 boats get sold and 2% of them come back with some type of warranty engine issue. That is phenomenal. The technology that they put in these boats and these motors today is better than it's ever been, and it continues to get better. Another brand we carry, which is kind of our high line of a performance pontoon boat and a luxury pontoon, that would be Barletta. Barletta, their birth kind of came from Grand Design, which is a RV manufacturing company that is on fire and they're probably one of the best companies out there. Yeah. So the owner of that company was buying pontoon boats and said, I've done a great job of finding the holes and the deficits in the RV world and innovating that. Nobody's really created a pontoon boat that I'm happy with. He went ahead and created his own and started Barletta 4 years ago, and they've just taken off.
Yeah.
So that is probably one of our premier lines. And then of course the Sun Chaser, that is a value centered boat. They have different lines, and all of these have different lines, just like in the automotive industry. You can buy a really inexpensive Chevy or GMC, and then you can buy the nicest Corvette that's out there.
So, Richie, what is the availability? During the COVID, the pandemic, there was they couldn't keep up with the manufacturing some of these products. How is that now? How is the availability now?
It's better. What happens is, we do our boat shows at the beginning of the year. We move a lot of boats right now. And the advantage of buying early is that you get your choice of horsepower, and you get your choice of, seating arrangement. You get your choice of, you get the pick of the litter. Last year, we struggled we sold so many of our boats that were 150 horsepower outboards and above. And at the end of the season, we still had the demand for them, but we couldn't get those from the manufacturer. They couldn't get motors from Mercury, Yamaha, and Honda over 150 horsepower. So really, to buy early, you get, pick of the litter, and you get those motors. We just had a show in Billings, and I believe we sold almost exclusively on our Barlettas 200 horsepower and above. So when that inventory starts to run thin, if you're going to buy a boat and you're going to buy a boat this year, buy it sooner than later so that you get what you want.
Yeah, don't go through the nightmare of the last week in June. you say, hey, let's go buy a boat for the 4th of July weekend, because that's not going to happen.
Right.
Well, Richie, I want to thank you so much for spending so much time with us and giving us great advice. Last thing I wanted you to mention just real quick, you guys do service everything you sell, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. That is important. So you get it fixed and fixed right. Plus, you've got great accessories, too.
And I'll add a personal note. I do business with Bretz. I have a fifth wheel that I purchased from him. We haven't even had a chance to get into that. Maybe we'll talk to Richie about that down the road on the podcast. But I also have a Smoker Craft, and the products, and more importantly, the guys that I deal with over there at Bretz, they know what they're doing. They fish, and they tell me they can talk my language. Mm-hmm. And it's not that they're condescending, not like me. They're not condescending like I am. I can be real condescending, and I do a real good job of that. But I'm just telling you right now, it's a great place to do business. They're a Montana company, And Richie Winters is just one of the many examples, and of all the personnel that they have there.
Well, and I can vouch for that. Hanging out with the captain, we'll run across a little problem, and we think, oh no, this is going to have to go to the service department. We get on the phone. We're way over in Fort Peck. We get on the phone. They've talked us through it. We're back on the water in no time. Wasn't an issue that we thought it was. So that's the other great thing. They're there for you. So Richie, lastly, best places to get a hold of you. Of course, BrettsRV.com is a good place to go look. Other phone numbers and that folks can get in touch with you?
You bet. Our main line is 406-541-4800. But, we've put a lot of development into our website. So, folks can jump on there and just search pontoon boats and look at the vast inventory we have. And that website is actually a great data portal because you can look at everything at every store. And it really gives you we are the Cabela's of RVs and boats. We have so many options to look at. It's your one-stop shop. And, the other thing I'd point out that you guys kind of mentioned, I've been at Bretz for 19 years. We have sales guys here that have been here for 30.
That's unreal.
That makes a difference. Our mission statement is, we help more families go boating and camping and enjoy the outdoor lifestyle and get them back out quickly. In fact, it's all we do. It's in our DNA. We know that, taking care of a customer on their first purchase correctly, they're going to continue to do business with us in the future. And that's why we've been here. We're still a family-owned company.
Absolutely.
Well, there you have it, folks. And as Richie said, if you're ready to buy that boat, don't wait. Get into it now. Have the pick of what you want. Richie, thank you so much for being with us today. And we look forward to getting you back on and going through all the RVs and stuff with you as well.
You bet. Appreciate your guys' time.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock, high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to RMTTE.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at MontanaOutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.